Echoes of yesterday. The kites danced above Marigold Beach like colorful birds caught in a gentle storm. 11-year-old Nisha Sharma laughed as her green diamond-shaped creation soared higher than all the others, its tail whipping magnificently against the amber evening sky. "You're cheating!" Vikram Malhotra called out, his own red kite bobbing awkwardly as he struggled with the string. "You got the better spot with more wind." "It's not about the wind," Nisha replied with the confidence of someone who had mastered her craft. "It's about understanding the sky." She tugged her string with practiced precision, sending her kite into a graceful loop that made the other children gasp. This was their ritual every Friday evening in the small coastal town of Varkala. While their parents gathered on the shore, discussing politics and sharing homemade snacks, the children claimed the beach as their kingdom. But everyone knew that Nisha and Vikram were inseparable, the unofficial queen and king of their little world. When they weren't flying kites, they were collecting seashells or building elaborate sand fortresses. Vikram excelled at mathematics and often brought his notebook to calculate the perfect angles for their sand walls to withstand the incoming tide. Nisha, with her artistic talents, would decorate their creations with intricate patterns using colored stones and flower petals. "When we grow up," Vikram once said as they watched the sunset paint the horizon in shades of crimson and gold, "I'm going to build real buildings. Buildings so tall they'll touch the clouds." "And I'll design beautiful clothes," Nisha replied, fingers tracing patterns in the sand. "Clothes with colors as bright as our kites." "We'll be famous together," he promised solemnly, extending his pinky finger. "Pinky swear." "Pinky swear," she agreed, linking her finger with his. Their childhood. Promises seemed unbreakable until the day Vikram's father announced they were moving to America. His software company had been acquired by a Silicon Valley giant, and the entire family would relocate within a month. The news shattered their small universe. On their final evening together, they sat on their favorite rock overlooking the Arabian Sea, the weight of impending separation pressing on their young hearts. "I'll write to you every week," Vikram promised, his voice breaking. "And when I'm 18, I'll come back for you." Nisha nodded, unable to speak through her tears. She pressed something into his palm, a small green stone shaped like a heart that she'd found on the beach years ago. "To remember me," she whispered. The following week, Vikram was gone. They exchanged letters faithfully at first, pages filled, with childish handwriting detailing new discoveries and ongoing adventures. But gradually, the letters became less frequent. Different schools, new friends, and the simple tyranny of distance and time began to erode what once seemed unbreakable. By the time they were 16, the letters had stopped altogether. Nisha kept Vikram's final letter in a small wooden box beneath her bed, alongside a faded photograph of two gap-toothed children holding kites against an endless sky. Life continued its relentless march forward. Nisha threw herself into her studies and her passion for design, sketching outfits late into the night by the light of a small desk lamp. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Vikram navigated the complexities of American high school, his memories of a beach in India growing dimmer with each passing year. Neither could have imagined how dramatically their paths would cross again, or how the echoes of their childhood promises would resonate through the years of silence that separated them. Shadows and silk. 15 years had transformed Nisha Sharma from a carefree girl with sand between her toes to a woman with calloused fingers and tired eyes. At 31, she worked as an assistant designer at Elegance Extraordinaire, one of Mumbai's most prestigious boutiques catering to Bollywood celebrities and society's elite. Though her designs often received quiet praise from her colleagues, they rarely made it past her supervisor's critical gaze. "Too ethnic for our international clientele," Prisha Kapoor, the boutique's owner, would say dismissively while examining Nisha's sketches. Our customers want Paris and Milan, not village handicrafts. Today was no different as Nisha stood silently while Prisha flipped through her portfolio with barely concealed disdain. Each page represented countless late nights at her tiny apartment, where she balanced caring for her mother, bedridden with rheumatoid arthritis, and pursuing her passion. The Silver Thread collection launches in 3 weeks, Prisha reminded her. You'll be responsible for ensuring the models are properly dressed and that everything runs smoothly backstage. The event will have international investors present, so perfection is non-negotiable. Nisha nodded, swallowing her disappointment. Another chance to showcase her designs had slipped away. I understand, ma'am. Later that evening, Nisha navigated Mumbai's crowded streets toward the modest 2-room apartment she shared with her mother. The medical bills had accumulated like autumn leaves, forcing her to take loans at exorbitant interest rates. Each month was a precarious balance between paying creditors and keeping food on the table. Beta, you're home, her mother called weakly as Nisha entered. Sunita Sharma's once vibrant face had grown gaunt, but her eyes still sparkled with the same determination that had sustained them after Nisha's father abandoned them years ago. I brought your medicine, Nisha said, forcing cheerfulness into her voice as she unpacked the expensive pills. And some kheer from Mrs. Desai next door. Any good news today? Her mother asked, a ritual question that always hung between them like a fragile hope. Nisha smiled. Not yet, but soon. After dinner and helping her mother to bed, Nisha retreated to her corner workspace, a small desk illuminated by a single lamp where scraps of fabric, sketches, and dreams mingled in organized chaos. She opened her laptop to check her emails, finding one from the bank reminding her of an overdue payment. As she began sketching to calm her anxious mind, the television murmured in the background. A news segment caught her attention, something about an Indian-American tech entrepreneur revolutionizing medical supply chains in developing countries. Vikram Malhotra, founder and CEO of MediConnect, has pledged $50 million to improve healthcare access across rural India, the announcer stated as a photograph appeared on screen. Nisha's pencil clattered to the floor. The boy from the beach had transformed into a man with confident eyes and a polished smile, but she would have recognized him anywhere. Memories surged back like a sudden tide, kites dancing against an orange sky, pinky promises, and a small green stone. Across the world in San Francisco, Vikram Malhotra leaned back in his ergonomic chair, gazing at the cityscape from his penthouse office. At 32, he had accomplished more than most achieved in a lifetime. MediConnect, his medical supply chain technology company, had disrupted the industry by creating an AI-driven platform that reduced costs and delivery times for essential medications in remote areas. Despite his success, something felt perpetually missing. His assistant, Rohan, entered with a stack of documents requiring his signature. The Mumbai trip is confirmed for next month, Rohan mentioned. You'll be speaking at the Healthcare Innovation Summit, followed by several investor meetings. There's also an invitation to attend something called the Silver Thread Collection launch. Apparently, it's an exclusive fashion event where many potential investors will be present. Vikram nodded absently, running his thumb over a small, worn green stone he kept on his desk, a habit he'd developed over the years without fully acknowledging its significance. Add it to the schedule, he said. As Rohan left, Vikram picked up the stone, memories flickering at the edges of his consciousness. He had tried searching for Nisha several times over the years, but her family had moved from their childhood town, and without social media presence, she had been impossible to locate. Eventually, life's demands had pushed those attempts aside, but never completely erased them. He placed the stone back on his desk and returned to his work, unaware that in 3 weeks the threads of past and present would intertwine in ways neither he nor Nisha could possibly imagine. The silver thread, the Grand Oberoi Ballroom, glittered with Mumbai's elite on the evening of the Silver Thread collection launch. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over champagne flutes and designer evening wear. Industry magnates mingled. With Bollywood stars, everyone eager to see Prisha Kapoor's latest fashion triumph. Behind the sleek runway, chaos reigned in the preparation area. Nisha moved efficiently between models, adjusting hemlines and securing accessories. Her own attire, a simple black dress she'd made herself, stood in stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. Disaster! Prisha appeared suddenly, face contorted with panic. Aditi's zipper just broke and she's opening the show in 5 minutes. Nisha sprang into action, grabbing her emergency sewing kit. I can fix it, she assured, already threading a needle. With practiced precision, she executed an invisible repair on the elaborate gown. Acceptable, Prisha conceded before turning to address another crisis. The show began with thunderous music and dazzling lights. From her position backstage, Nisha could only glimpse the audience through gaps in the curtain. Her heart nearly stopped when she spotted a familiar profile. The strong jawline and distinctive eyebrows she would have recognized anywhere. Vikram Malhotra sat in the front row, engaged in conversation with one of India's leading pharmaceutical executives. After the final walk, Prisha invited guests to mingle while enjoying refreshments. Nisha's role shifted to circulating with trays of champagne, invisible except when serving the distinguished guests. The embroidery technique seemed derivative of Sabyasachi's work 3 seasons ago, remarked a fashion critic loudly as Nisha approached with drinks. Perhaps, replied his companion, a woman dripping in diamonds. But Prisha knows what sells to nouveau riches who can't tell the difference. Nisha kept her expression neutral as she offered champagne. The woman took a glass without acknowledging her, continuing her critique of the collection. As Nisha turned to move away, the critic shifted suddenly, bumping her tray and sending champagne cascading down the front of the diamond-adorned woman's designer gown. "You clumsy fool!" the woman shrieked, attracting immediate attention. "This dress costs more than you'll earn in a year." Nisha froze as all eyes turned toward the commotion. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Please let me help." "Help? You've done enough." The woman's voice rose higher. "Where did Prisha find you? Some village gutter?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Nisha glimpsed Prisha approaching with a thunderous expression that clearly forecast her imminent unemployment. Actually, a deep voice cut through the tension. "I believe the gentleman's elbow was responsible for the accident." Vikram Malhotra stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. He removed his tailored jacket and gently placed it around Nisha's shoulders. "Sometimes we're so focused on the spectacle that we miss the true artistry in the room," he continued, his eyes never leaving Nisha's stunned face. "I recognize genuine talent when I see it." The crowd fell silent, captivated by this unexpected scene. The woman with the champagne-soaked dress seemed to shrink under his implicit rebuke. "Vikram?" Nisha whispered, her voice barely audible. Recognition dawned in his eyes. "Nisha? Is it really you?" Time seemed suspended as they stood facing each other, separated by 15 years, yet connected by an invisible thread stronger than the silence that had stretched between them. Prisha, ever alert to power dynamics, quickly intervened. "Mr. Malhotra, you know my assistant? What a delightful surprise." "Know her?" Vikram smiled, his eyes never leaving Nisha's face. "We once built castles together that could withstand the Arabian Sea." Before Nisha could respond, Prisha smoothly inserted herself into the conversation, redirecting Vikram's attention to the collection. The diamond-adorned woman was escorted away to address her dress situation, the crisis temporarily diffused. Throughout the remainder of the evening, Nisha felt Vikram's gaze following her as she continued her duties. Her mind raced with questions and memories. When the event finally wound down and guests began departing, she slipped into the staff room to collect her belongings, certain that any interaction had been a momentary courtesy from a successful man acknowledging a childhood acquaintance. She was gathering her things when Prisha entered. "Mr. Malhotra has specifically requested to speak with you," she announced, her tone revealing both suspicion and curiosity. "Whatever connection you have, use it wisely. He's investing heavily in Indian businesses." Nisha stepped out to find Vikram waiting in the now-empty ballroom, standing beside one of the display mannequins featuring an evening gown from the collection. "You disappeared," he said simply. "I had responsibilities," she replied, suddenly conscious of her worn dress, and his expensive suit jacket still draped around her shoulders. She moved to return it. "Keep it," he said. "The night air is cool." An awkward silence stretched between them, 15 years of unwritten letters and unspoken words creating an invisible barrier. "I looked for you," he finally said. "When I first returned to India for business 5 years ago, I went back to Varkala. We moved to Mumbai after Mother became ill," Nisha explained. "My father left and we needed better medical facilities." Vikram nodded, processing this information. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow? There's a lot of catching up to do." Before she could answer, her phone rang. The specialized tone she'd set for the hospice nurse who watched her mother during evening shifts. "I have to take this," she apologized, stepping away. The nurse's voice was urgent. "Your mother's having difficulty breathing. The doctor recommends coming immediately." When she returned to Vikram, her face had paled considerably. "I'm sorry, I have to go. My mother—" "Let me drive you," he offered without hesitation. Nisha hesitated only briefly before nodding. As they hurried toward the exit, neither noticed. Prisha watching from the shadows, her calculating gaze following their departure. Unstitched memories. The sterile fluorescent lights of Lilavati Hospital cast harsh shadows across Nisha's exhausted face as she sat beside her mother's bed. The rhythmic beeping of monitoring equipment provided a mechanical soundtrack to her vigil. Sunita Sharma had stabilized after a respiratory crisis, but the doctor's words echoed in Nisha's mind. Her condition is deteriorating faster than expected. Vikram entered the room, carrying 2 paper cups of chai, his expensive suit incongruous in the utilitarian hospital setting. He'd remained through the night, making calls that somehow resulted in Mumbai's top pulmonologist arriving at 3 a.m. to consult on Sunita's case. "Any change?" he asked softly, handing Nisha the tea. She shook her head. "The doctor says she's stable for now." After a pause, she added, "You didn't need to stay. This isn't what you signed up for when you offered. Dinner. I'm exactly where I should be," Vikram replied, sitting beside her. When Sunita stirred awake an hour later, her confused gaze settled on Vikram. Recognition gradually dawned in her eyes. "Little Vikram Malhotra?" she whispered incredulously. "The boy with the red kite?" Vikram smiled, moving closer. "Yes, Auntie, it's been a long time." "He's become quite important now, Ma," Nisha explained. "A successful businessman in America." Sunita studied him with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated neighborhood children years ago. "Yet here you sit in a hospital at dawn, drinking terrible chai." "Some things are more important than business," he replied simply. After the doctors completed their morning rounds, Vikram insisted on driving Nisha home to rest. Her resistance crumbled under the weight of exhaustion. As his luxury car navigated Mumbai's morning traffic, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. "The medical director assured me your mother will receive the best care," Vikram finally said. "I've arranged for all expenses to be covered." Nisha stiffened. "We don't need charity." "It's not charity, Nisha. It's—" "What? Friendship? We haven't spoken in 15 years, Vikram?" The words escaped before she could temper them with gratitude. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I tried to find you. After my father died, 7 years ago, I went back to Varkala. Nobody knew where your family had gone. And then you moved on with your life, she concluded. As did I. When they reached her apartment building, a crumbling structure in a densely packed neighborhood, Nisha felt a flush of embarrassment. The contrast between their circumstances couldn't have been more stark. Inside her small apartment, exhaustion temporarily overcame pride. Vikram took in the modest space, the corner desk overflowing with sketches, the medical supplies organized neatly on shelves, and most notably, a framed photograph of 2 children holding kites. "You kept it," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Some memories are worth preserving," she acknowledged, then gestured toward a wooden box on her desk. "I kept your letters too." Vikram crossed to the desk, his attention caught by the sketches pinned to the wall above, innovative designs that blended traditional Indian techniques with contemporary silhouettes. "These are extraordinary," he said, examining them closer. "Why aren't these in production?" "Prisha prefers designs that mimic European fashion houses." Nisha shrugged. "The market for fusion concepts is limited." "That's not what I've observed," Vikram countered. "The international market is hungry for authentic creativity. My sister runs a boutique in San Francisco that can't keep Indian-inspired pieces in stock." Before Nisha could respond, her phone rang. The hospital was calling. Her mother had taken a turn for the worse. The following days blurred together. Sunita's condition stabilized again, but required transfer to a specialized care facility. Vikram remained a constant presence, navigating bureaucratic hurdles with efficient authority. Nisha alternated between gratitude for his help and resentment at needing it. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner in the hospital cafeteria, Vikram finally broached the subject of their interrupted past. "What happened to our letters?" "One day they just stopped coming." Nisha set down her fork. "Your final letter mentioned a girl named Jennifer. You seemed happy. I thought you'd moved on." Understanding crossed Vikram's face. "Jennifer was my lab partner for a science project. There was nothing romantic." "It didn't matter," Nisha said. "We were children making impossible promises across oceans. Reality intervened." "For you, perhaps," Vikram responded quietly. "I kept writing for months after your letters stopped. Eventually, my pride couldn't take the silence." Nisha stared at him. "My letters never stopped. I wrote twice monthly until I was 17. Confusion settled between them until Vikram suddenly asked, "Who handled the international mail in your house?" "My father until he—" Nisha trailed off as realization dawned. "You think he intercepted them?" It would explain the abrupt end. Vikram hesitated before adding, "My mother eventually admitted she'd kept some of your letters from me. She worried about her American son being distracted by Indian sentimentality." The weight of this revelation hung between them, their separation orchestrated by those who claimed to want the best for them. "We were just children," Nisha said, softly. "Yes," Vikram agreed, "but we're not children anymore." The following morning, Nisha arrived at the boutique to find Prisha waiting with thinly veiled irritation. "Your association with Vikram Malhotra is becoming noticed," she said. "Several clients have inquired about your sudden elevation." "There's no elevation," Nisha replied tiredly. "We were childhood friends." "Nevertheless," Prisha continued, "I expect complete professionalism. Mr. Malhotra has expressed interest in possibly investing in our expansion. Nothing must jeopardize that opportunity." Later that day, Vikram appeared at the boutique unannounced. He browsed the collection while Nisha assisted other customers, his presence creating a stir among staff. When he finally approached her, his expression was unreadable. "I'd like to see more of your designs," he said formally, aware of watching eyes. "Perhaps over dinner tonight?" Before she could answer, Prisha materialized beside them. "What a wonderful idea. I've been mentoring," Nisha's work? Perhaps I should join you to provide context for her development. Actually, Vikram replied smoothly, I was hoping to discuss a private business proposition with Nisha alone. That evening, in a quiet corner of an upscale restaurant, Vikram placed a legal document on the table between them. What's this? Nisha asked. A preliminary investment contract, he explained. I want to finance your independent design label. Nisha stared at him, emotions warring across her face. Is this because of our history, or pity for my circumstances? Neither, Vikram replied firmly. It's because your work deserves to be seen. The world needs your vision, not pale imitations of European designs. And what would you expect in return? She asked cautiously. A reasonable return on investment eventually, and perhaps, he added with a hint of vulnerability, a chance to discover who we've become after 15 years apart. Nisha didn't reach for the contract. I need time to think. Take all the time you need, he said. Some decisions shouldn't be rushed. As they parted that night, the unstitched memories between them had begun to form a new pattern. Neither the abandoned dreams of children nor the transactional relationship of investor and designer, but something yet to be defined. Patterns redrawn morning sunlight spilled through the windows of Nisha's new studio space, a converted warehouse in Mumbai's emerging arts district. 3 months had passed since Vikram had placed the investment contract before her, and much had changed. The walls were now adorned with mood boards and fabric swatches. Dress forms showcased half-completed designs that married traditional Indian craftsmanship with contemporary silhouettes. The embroiderers from Kutch confirmed they can meet our deadline, announced Deepti, Nisha's newly hired production manager. Once a senior seamstress at Elegance Extraordinaire, Deepti had eagerly joined Nisha Sharma Designs when it became clear that Prisha's promised promotions would never materialize. Perfect, Nisha replied, examining a sample of intricate mirror work. Their craftsmanship is exactly what the collection needs. After Deepti departed, Nisha found herself alone in the quiet studio. She traced her fingers over a sketch. Her debut collection was taking shape, with a launch planned at Mumbai Fashion Week in 2 months. The journey to this point had been anything but straightforward. She had ultimately signed Vikram's contract, but only after extensive negotiations that established her complete creative control and majority ownership. Her counter-proposal had surprised him, revealing a shrewd business mind beneath her artistic exterior. Rather than being offended, he'd seemed delighted by her backbone. The investment had allowed her to leave Prisha's boutique and establish her own label. It had also provided for her mother's transfer to a premier long-term care facility where advanced treatments had stabilized her condition. Though Sunita would never fully recover, her quality of life had improved dramatically. Nisha's phone chimed with a message from Vikram. Just landed. Still on for dinner tonight? Their relationship had evolved cautiously over the past months. Both carried the scars of their interrupted past and the wariness that comes from dramatic life disparities. Vikram had returned to San Francisco to manage his company, but frequent video calls and his monthly visits to Mumbai maintained their reconnection. Later that evening, they strolled along Marine Drive after dinner. The Arabian Sea stretching before them like a dark canvas scattered with the reflected lights of fishing boats. I visited your mother today, Vikram mentioned. She's teaching the nurses how to make proper chai, Nisha laughed. That sounds like her. Was she interrogating you again? Only about my intentions toward her daughter, he replied with a smile. And the future headquarters location for your design empire? Empire? I haven't even launched my first collection. But you will, he said with certainty. And it will be extraordinary. They found a bench facing the sea, reminiscent of their childhood rock at Varkala Beach. The comfortable silence between them was new, no longer awkward but thoughtful, allowing space for unspoken feelings. I received an offer from Trendsetters magazine today, Nisha finally said. They want to feature my launch collection in their international edition. That's amazing, Vikram replied, though not surprising. The journalist mentioned my fairy tale connection to a certain tech billionaire, she added with a raised eyebrow. Apparently, we're this season's most intriguing power couple. Vikram winced. I'm sorry. My PR team tries to manage the press, but speculation is inevitable. It's not your fault, she assured him, but it raises questions I've been avoiding. About us? About perception, Nisha clarified. At the launch, will they see my work, or just the designer who caught a billionaire's attention? Vikram considered this seriously. Does it matter if they recognize your talent once they see the collection? It matters to me, she said firmly. Everything I've worked for could be dismissed as a wealthy man's indulgence of his childhood sweetheart. What would you have me do? He asked. Pretend we don't know each other? Hide our connection? No, she sighed. That's not what I want. Either. Then what do you want, Nisha? The directness of his question caught her off guard. What did she want? The path forward had seemed clear when focused on establishing her business, but the personal terrain between them remained unmapped. I want to stand on my own merit, she began slowly. But I also want to acknowledge what we've found again. I'm just not sure how to reconcile those desires. Vikram reached into his pocket and withdrew a small object, pressing it into her palm. Nisha opened her hand to find a smooth green stone, the same heart-shaped pebble she had given him on the beach 15 years ago. You kept it all this time? She whispered. It reminded me of something pure, he explained. Something that existed before success or failure shaped us. Nisha closed her fingers around the stone, its familiar contours connecting past and present. I don't want to be rescued, Vikram. Not by your money, not by your influence, not even by our history. I never saw it as rescue, he replied. From that first night at the fashion show, I saw a woman who had survived and created beauty despite every obstacle. I didn't want to rescue you. I wanted to witness you. The honesty in his voice stripped away her defenses. For months, she had maintained careful boundaries, fearing that accepting his affection meant surrendering her hard-won independence. The investor's preview is next week, she said, changing direction. I've been meaning to ask you something. Anything. Don't come, she stated simply. Surprise flickered across his face. You don't want me there? I need to face them alone, Nisha explained. Not as your project or partner, but as a designer presenting her vision. If they invest, I want to know it's because they believe in my work. Understanding dawned in his eyes. And after the preview? After that, she smiled. I'd like you by my side at the launch. Not as my investor or savior, but as the boy who once built sandcastles with me, the man who remembered me when the world didn't see me. I'd be honored, he said softly. 1 week later, Nisha stood before a panel of fashion industry investors, presenting her collection without Vikram's reassuring presence. Her designs spoke for themselves, a harmonious blend of heritage and innovation that captivated the discerning audience. By evening's end, she had secured additional funding that would allow her to expand production without further investment from Vikram. When she called to share the news, his pride was palpable. I never doubted you for a moment. There's something else, she added. I've been invited to showcase at Paris Fashion Week next season. Nisha, that's incredible. It would mean relocating temporarily, she continued. Possibly longer if the European market responds well. A weighted pause followed. I see. Which made me think about us, she pressed on. About what we're building? Together, separately from our professional lives. And what conclusion did you reach? His voice remained carefully neutral. That patterns can be redrawn, she said. That we don't have to choose between love and ambition. MediConnect has been considering a European expansion, hasn't it? The smile returned to his voice. For about 3 minutes now, the following month, Mumbai Fashion Week showcased Echoes, the debut collection from Nisha Sharma Designs. As models displayed garments that told stories of tradition reimagined, Nisha stood backstage, watching her vision materialize on the runway. When she finally emerged for her designer's bow, she didn't walk alone. Vikram accompanied her, not as the billionaire tech entrepreneur that headlines proclaimed him to be, but as the boy who once promised to build buildings that touched clouds while she created clothes as colorful as kites. Their hands clasped as they faced the applauding crowd, not a rescue or a fairy tale, but a partnership forged through separation, struggle, and the courage to redraw life's patterns together. In the front row, Sunita Sharma watched from her wheelchair, tears glistening in her eyes as she witnessed her daughter's triumph and the restoration of a bond that transcended time and circumstance. Beside her sat Vikram's sister, who had flown in from San Francisco specifically to secure exclusive distribution rights for North America. Later that night, as celebration continued around them, Nisha and Vikram slipped away to the rooftop terrace. Above the glittering city lights, they flew 2 kites, one red, one green, against the night sky, their silhouettes dancing like memories come to life, weaving new promises into the fabric of their shared future. The green stone rested in Nisha's pocket, no longer a relic of the past, but a foundation for what lay ahead. Not a story of rescue, but of recognition. Not of fortune found, but of hearts returned to their rightful pattern.